out of these next 5 games, these teams do not look that great on offense. The question is, will the Saints offense be able to show up in these games, because these NFL teams, you have about 22 teams that are either right at 500 or below. Mm-hmm. The NFL has a lot of parity now. The only team that's showing any dominance at all, and it's basically through their defense, is the Minnesota Vikings. Pittsburgh Steelers have a great offense, and now New England is definitely going to be a factor because they got Brady back. Outside of those teams, most of these teams in these games are going down to a touchdown or field goal. So the Saints have an opportunity in all of these games, but who's show up for them? We need Drew. Honestly, we need Drew. Not comparison, but Drew has to play like Tom Brady. He has to play like Tom Brady is playing. They're the statesmen in the league. Drew and Tom Brady at quarterback. And so, unfortunately, that's a lot of pressure to put on Drew. But that's the only hope the Saints have of winning these games is Drew play impeccable.
You know what? And I agree with you. I would say, and Brendan, and hey, what's going on, Rem? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, fellas. How y'all making out?
Good.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
what's happening?
A few weeks ago, if we would have looked at the Saints' upcoming schedule after the bye, we would have said Chiefs lost, Seattle lost, Broncos lost, Panthers, both of those games losses. But now you say, hey, man, you feel like if you had a chance to marry Janet Jackson, so if Jermaine Dupri can date her, I could have done that, right? So the Saints have a chance of doing a little something. But, again, we've got to take these games one game at a time right now. The thing on Sunday, man, I wonder if Cam is going to, and Brenda, you brought up a real good point. If his mechanics are not at the point where he needs to have them, and then he's not going to take off and run like he used to because he's been injured, and I'm pretty sure they're going to instruct him to try to protect himself against any further concussions. Man, I feel good. I feel a little bit better than I did a couple of weeks ago about our possibilities of coming away with a win inside of the Mercedes Superdome. Rem, how do you feel about what's going to transpire on Sunday?
Well, man, as you said, I feel kind of good, but it's not because I feel like our team is so powerful. It's just that everybody else is just not doing well either.
Blase. Yeah.
We have just as good a chance to win as anyone else.
Right.
Especially coming off of a bye week with guys getting a little bit more healthy and our last game being a win, even though it was more like a loss for our opponent than a win for us because we didn't go out there and kick their butts either.
Right.
But I do feel that, hey, anything can happen from here on out because our division even Atlanta, as good as their record is, they're not that good. So anything can happen.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Brendan, I know you have to possibly get on off. Is there any other points you wanted to bring up before you leave us?
I think the big thing that a lot of fans, I know Professor said stop bringing up the playoffs, and at this point in time we shouldn't. But at this point in time, we also can't say the season's over. There's still a long way to go. You heard the whole Jim Morris spiel a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure a lot of you saw that video.
Yeah.
But it's not over. And I think Kyle made a lot of good points in terms of looking at the ahead schedule that all these other teams are struggling. Yes, we're struggling. Yes, I agree with the professor. Absolutely agree with you, Professor, that the football gods, for whatever reason, wanted the Saints to win that game. 100%. Because there's not a whole lot of teams that go. There was a great hit by, I believe it was Von Bell on that first fumble. Great hit by Bell. That second one, Benjamin just drops before he turned. And then that third one was the interception by B.W. Webb, and it was just thrown up there because it was like 4th and 22. But the season's not over. You never know, especially with the Saints team. I've seen a lot of weird things, and I know I should be probably the last one to speak on this panel of guys because I'm the youngest. But even in the short time that I've been watching the Saints and really following the Saints in depth and everything, I've seen some weird things with this football team. Now, I'm not saying the Saints are going to turn it around and go 13-3. I'm not saying the Saints are going to turn around and make the playoffs. But I'm saying the season's still young. Let's not jump on their backs. I think Professor brings it up every time I'm on the show with him, is that they're missing at least 7 guys that were going to play really big key roles. And you can't even extend that number because we haven't seen Stephon Anthony on the field. He hasn't grasped this position change. We're seeing a lot of changes, and right now for a lot of Saints fans, it's a little hard because we have this thing stuck in our heads where if Drew Brees is our quarterback, we always have a shot to win a Super Bowl. And that's 100% true. But we got to be patient, understand the season's still young. I think personally we have a great chance to go beat Carolina, especially if Jonathan Stewart doesn't play. And especially with Cam Newton coming off concussion protocol. I think they have a great shot to go in and upset a division rival. I'd still call it an upset, absolutely. I think there's a lot of positive things to look at. And at the end of the day, it's up to the Saints fans. Do you want to look at the positive things or do you want to look at the negative things?
Right.
I think Sean had a lot of good points and a lot of things we can take away and be positive about. You have Rankins coming back. First time we'll see that first-round draft pick. Delvin Breaux, our best corner, could be coming back pretty soon. You just got to stay positive. You got to look at the positive things. You know, as an analyst, and everybody on this panel, as an analyst, you're supposed to sit there and analyze. And more than anything, the last few weeks, what I've been handed by the Saints, essentially, what the Saints have given me to analyze has been more positive than negative. So let's kind of stay up, stay positive, and hopefully get a win.
And I want to counter what you're saying, DB. Positive does not always mean you don't tell the truth. Because the reality is when you look at a defense that's ranked at the bottom, you look at the situation in terms of the inability to run the ball, you look at the inability to consistently put pressure. That's not being negative. That's calling out the facts.
I didn't say that the Saints have looked any better. I'm saying that there are some positives we can take away.
Right. There are some positives, but the negatives right now are far glaring than the positives. The only thing you can really say positive about the Saints right now is Drew Brees. And unfortunately...
And you can't even say that.
He's played great. He's played pretty great. Drew's played pretty steady. I mean, he hasn't been, the Giants game I think was one of his toughest games, but he's been steady. He's got about 6 or 7 touchdowns. I think that with the issue is that young people don't understand. The Saints are rebuilding. That's just a fact. We don't like to face the fact that when you're rebuilding, it's going to take time. I said this last year. I look for the Saints to be better in 2017. I'm not surprised at their slow start because the team is rebuilding. We don't like to hear that word. I don't hear anybody in New Orleans saying it. I don't hear any of the analysts down there. The Saints are rebuilding. That's the bottom line. They're rebuilding. It's going to take a little more time. And because we want Drew and the Saints to win a Super Bowl, because we love Drew, sometimes that impairs our vision to be able to look at the team in terms of perspective. Because what's happening to the team right now is they're going through growing pains. There is very few teams that can recover from 10 players that would have contributed on your defense. That is just not realistic to expect, to replace it. That's an impossible situation for Dennis Allen. So that's why I give them a bye in terms of this season. I don't think, honestly, Sheldon Rankins is going to come in and he may be able to do something. It's going to take him about 2 or 3 weeks to get in football shape to playing football because he's just recovering and he's just getting back to hitting. So it may take him till mid-season. That's going to be a plus. Delvin Breaux is going to be a plus. But will Delvin Brewer and Sheldon Rankins be enough to turn the Saints season around? I don't
Absolutely
know.
not.
Only time will tell. But the issues that I now see with the Saints, it ain't so much the defense as I see the inconsistent play that the New Orleans Saints offense now has. And that's why I'm concerned with this team. Now, they can get it turned around. In terms of, but the odds are, if they lose against the Panthers at 1-4, you're going to have a major collapse from the Falcons, which is always possible. Anything can happen. And now you would have lost 3 NFC games and 2 in your division. So this is a must-win. It's a must-win. And in terms of the fans spend a lot of money. For you to be 14 and 15 and 22, that's not ever going to be acceptable to me when people are spending $2,500 to $5,000 a year for season tickets. You've got to address the unit coach problems that you have with Joe Vitt and that you have with Bill Johnson. You've got to address the special teams coach problem that you're having with McMahon. These things are starting to come out. They're coming out, and people are starting to see it. And when people are spending their hard-earned money, they're going to start asking for answers, or they'll start wearing bags, or you weren't born for that. They won't come to that Superdome. Because most of the games now, the fans are being taken out of the games in the Superdome. Except for that Raiders game, the Saints fans are being taken out. And that's the greatest venue you could play in, is in that Superdome. So those are my concerns in terms of facing it. Now, what's positive, I definitely like what I see in Michael Thomas. I believe this kid Luck has great potential. And I think they can turn it around. But you got to play consistent on offense. Some of the reason why the defense is tied, because the offense plays in spurts. They'll get 7 points to open up the game, then they might get 7 more, then they go into a drought, then they try to get a whole bunch of points at the end of the game. You can't play 1.5 quarters or 2 quarters. You absolutely must play 4 quarters if you want to be a winning team, because the Saints are losing games by 1 play here, 2 plays here. Saints could have easily been 3-1. I'm not going to say they could have won the Atlanta game. They just got outplayed. But you got to fix the intangibles. When you look at New England, whatever that man does up there in New England, the special teams, the defense, and the offense, they come to play every week, even when they lose. And so that's where I just want to see the Saints improve. I don't care if they go 6-10, 5-11, because I don't have an expectation of them this year, because I know they're rebuilding. My year for the Saints, I really believe, is next year.
Yeah.
When everybody come back and all the players, that 2017, which might be Drew's last year, that could be a really, really special year if we can keep people healthy.
And I'm 100% with you on that one. I think the one thing that I'll just touch on real quick that you brought up, I think a lot of Saints fans are extremely blinded by the fact that we have this reality that as long as Drew Brees is there, we're going to be okay, that they don't want to accept the word rebuilding, quote unquote, as you use, Professor, because Drew Brees is there. Because we have this idea as fans or as analysts or whatever the case may be, that as long as you have a steady quarterback, you can never be in a rebuilding stage, and that's not true at all. And I'm 100% with you on that one. I think the Saints are still not a very good team whatsoever, but there are positives. Like you said, Michael Thomas is a big positive. I think he'll be a key contributor for years to come. I think Delvin Breaux coming back will help the defense. I think Rankins will help the defense a little bit, and we'll finally be able to see, what we drafted. I think that's more exciting for fans than anything, is finally being able to see that product on the field. I'm no way saying that the Saints are going to go and turn this season around. Like you said, Professor, I'm okay if the Saints go, not even okay, but, I'd be content if the Saints go 5-11 or 6-10, because I know it's a rebuilding year. I know they've lost so much. I just want it, like you said, Professor, you just want to see some consistency somewhere.
Yeah, you hear a lot of times that I know Kevin Buckles, who used to be with us a lot, he called it, instead of rebuilding, a retooling. And